Everybody, it's Pete Carmasino for this week's halftime show with Chaikin Analytics here on StockCharts TV. So I appreciate you joining me. Thanks. Each and every week, we're going to go over just kind of a few things that are happening in the market. One sector that I'm going to look at today is healthcare. It's one of the bullish sector, actually very bullish sectors on our system here in Chaikin. And there's a few names. There's a little bit of an interesting twist here today. There's only one or two names that are bullish that make up a heavy part of the weight of healthcare. And there's one or two names that have kind of broken out or experiencing a breakout today. So we're going to go over that as well. And I like to start today's meeting off just with a sort of an overview of the market. Just kind of reading my notes here and looking at what's really happening here today in the markets. You've got U.S. equities mostly lower on Monday, sort of midday trading here. Value and growth are sort of in line again, which is kind of strange. The last few days, they've sort of worked together, not against one another. Energy is a huge decliner with really continued selling pressure on the oil side. Industrials and materials are also lagging. You got financials, healthcare, consumer staples, all higher. Treasuries are mostly weaker. And, after we had a huge sort of pickup in rates last week, and we're seeing the dollar a bit firmer against the euro, but little change against the yen. But I mean, sectors, again, across the board are mostly lower. So we're going to kind of dive in and look at the healthcare sector right now. That is actually one of the ones that's an outperformer. And you're looking in the areas of life science, pharma, really are among the best two groups at the moment. So we'll switch over. We'll start looking at some individual names on the ACP platform, and we'll take it from here. Okay, we find ourselves back here at the StockCharts ACP platform, and I'm going to be moving in between a few different ones as well on the Chaikin Analytics side, but we'll be looking at some of the ones here that we've continually want to focus on. Again, you got the healthcare area starting to really break out. So Editas is a name I want to look at, and we'll come back to that. I'm just going to look at the sector first. So on Chaikin Analytics, on the app that we have here on StockCharts TV and StockCharts ACP platform, we're not rating the ETFs yet, but we do rate this ETF on our system. And XLV right now is rated as a very bullish name or group, I should say. And you can see why. I mean, obviously between the SPX, the RSI, the main trend of this particular ETF has been pretty phenomenal. Up nicely today with, markets kind of sideways to down a little bit. But if I look at where this ranks on our system, you can see that XLV is just behind information tech and above the S&P. So every time we look at sectors, we look at them in a group of, each sector against one another, but we also rank it against the SPY. And this one is outranking SPY. One other thing to note, look at the top holdings here. I mean, the ones that make up, roughly 38% or so of the actual ETF. We have a very mixed bag. I mean, J&J neutral. You've got United Healthcare with a very bullish, Pfizer, Abbott. All of these other ones are sort of neutral or neutral negative, and then Merck being bearish, actually very bearish, right? Why am I pointing that out? Well, because there are certain names inside of this particular fund that are faring better. So when I go over to our workspace and I start to look at some of the bullish names in here, and look, I do have 24 bullish names. They just don't make up a big part of the weight of this ETF. But at the same time, we are getting on the ETF, if I look at XLV real quick, we've got that nice trend that you can certainly see here as well. We've had a relative strength change to the positive side. That started really in, I guess, the third week of July, roughly, and has continued to new highs, as a lot of things have in the market. But a few different ways that we can view this setup. We can look at 4 or 5 names here that are having what we call momentum breakouts. We don't see very many bearish signals in the ETF. And we can see some estimate revisions have come down at CVS, Regeneron, and some other names. And so when I go back to StockCharts and I pull up some of those names that we're experiencing the breakout signals, we can go to Agilent right now. This is in the medical equipment phase. And what do we have? We have a pretty good looking chart here. I mean, it's hard not to like at all. And if I kind of fix my moving averages here, I've got the 200 in there. I like to add the exponential one as well. And again, pretty simple to do, pretty quick on here on StockCharts, which is really nice. We love that. And, I like more of a solid one, and I'll give that sort of a red color close. And then I'll go to my 200 and I'll update it, right? I like to change these around, make sure that they're kind of in line. So when I look at obviously this name had a nice breakout on the crossover here, and it's done it a few times, but didn't really follow through. Finally did. And again, that's part of the group strength as well. But the nice part here is when you start to look at the Chaikin power gauge, you've got experts, bullish, and the other two areas, financials and earnings, are slightly behind. Now they're neutral. They're not bearish, but at the same time, you've got the technicals being very bullish and experts being bullish. So you might have catalyst from the earnings and other parts of the metric in the financials that we track, right? So a quick refresher, we look at things like debt to equity, price to sales, price to book, cash flow, things of that nature inside of the financial factor that we look at. But again, they're in a neutral position, but what's outweighing that is the technical side and the expert side. So again, this is sort of an all systems are go here. And if I go back to our system and I look at the momentum breakout that we're experiencing here, that actually just came up today. But look at our relative strength, the way we calculate it. Our rating had turned bullish. And oftentimes what happens is sometimes you see our technicals change and then the bullish rating comes behind. So it's growing into, so to speak, the fundamental part of the picture, which is great. That's what you're looking for, right? It's nice to have one precede the other, no matter which one, whether it's the fundamentals or the technicals. We like to see both in line, and that's what we're seeing today on Agilent. So the next name that is popping up is ResMed, symbol RMD. And so if I go look at here, I see another momentum breakout, almost a very similar pattern, but my technicals here were way ahead of our bullish rating. So after earnings and somewhere even prior to earnings, we were getting changes in the system. And obviously they had beat estimates last week, but we go back here and this is what you see on your system here on StockCharts. Awesome. I mean, a great setup. Again, a continuation of the trend. It likes to test the 200, doesn't it? Comes back in a little bit, but you have experts and technicals on your side, very similar to Agilent, almost identical, really, right? And let's look at the next one, Intuitive Surgical, which I know a lot of you know. This is the name that's been a popular name in this field for many, many years, over $1,000 a share. Pretty amazing where this stock has been and where it's come from. It's done a great job. And look at the 50-day crossing, another good setup. But look here, now we've got strong earnings as well. So now I've got sort of a triple threat. I've got experts, technicals, and earnings on my side, along with the group being strong and Intuitive Surgical, most likely benefiting from more elective surgeries and things of that nature coming in as the reopening plays its role here in the healthcare sector. And last one we'll look at is WAT, Waters. And again, these are the names, just to recap, these are the names that were giving me some buy signals here in our system. I'll flip back here. And again, no surprise here. The momentum is continuing, but here more of a mixed bag, and we are neutral on the name. Okay, so we're neutral on the name, but we do have financials. Earnings are a bit behind. Technicals are way ahead, obviously. We can see that. And experts are not convinced yet. So we've got two potential catalysts here on a name where you're starting to see the momentum breakout. You're seeing earnings lagging slightly, and there could be a catalyst there. We might start to see earnings pick up. And then you've got experts that are neutral. And I think that goes hand in hand. So as experts upgrade, earnings may follow. And then obviously financials and the rest of them might fall into place. But we are neutral on that name, even though it has a momentum breakout. And look at the stock happens to be down as well. So one name I want to look at is EDIT, Editas. Now the stock's been a momentum kind of favorite here, right? It's really been heavily traded. I don't know if this was one of those Reddit names or meme stocks, whatever you like to refer to them as. But when I look at what's happening here on this RSI where it broke down, really held, and then reaffirmed the upside. Not the best looking chart. However, I'll go back and I'll look at our chart, and this is what I want to show you. This is what's great, is when you use these systems, you can start to see, I mean, this was a bit of a base. It had a breakout here, but the most important part that I'm seeing here is this relative strength breakout. And when we see that, obviously it's having trouble here right around that $60 level. You could see that clearly right here on the ACP chart as well. And if I flip from a line chart to a candlestick, you maybe get a little bit of a better picture here, but you're not getting something here that doesn't look like there might be some other, further catalyst to the upside as well. But when you start to look at the rating, you can see where I'm about to tell you that the catalyst might exist, which is probably on the expert side. And you've got earnings and technicals in line. So people are clearly seeing the potential in the stock. But what is not happening is, again, experts are potentially unmoved or not convinced, however you want to phrase that. And there could be further upside. So if you want to look at a name like Editas, don't forget, I mean, this is a small cap name. It's got, very low amount of revenue, so to speak. And, what you're seeing here is a potential growth name, and you've got to be careful with this. So if I was going to use a name like this, I'd use maybe 50 as an initial stop, and maybe one of the moving averages or between these averages as further areas of stop levels, just because, again, too much risk, obviously is just not warranted on any given day. But boy, what might happen here if we start to see this 50 cross the 200? And it looks like, the market is kind of testing some levels of support and resistance here. So very much like the S&P, you can see Editas is kind of forming the same type of pattern where it's looking to break out, but it will test from time to time levels of support and trade right to resistance. But again, a few catalysts remain. I think you've got experts, possibility from upgrades. And obviously the financials are neutral right now, but earnings and technicals are all intact. So like the name here, it looks interesting. Again, it could be a risky trade, but you've got to be warranted and kind of use your risk management techniques and any other technique that you have to, again, not take too much risk, but enjoy the upside while you can. Okay, so that's this edition of Halftime. Again, we focused on healthcare. We looked at kind of the overview of the market. We saw healthcare was outperforming. We saw a few names inside of the system that were giving us some momentum buying signals. And then we kind of focused on one that had a really true, strong relative strength change after experiencing one of a negative move on the downside. So I appreciate you listening. Thanks for tuning in for this week's Halftime Show. Chaikin Analytics here on StockCharts TV. Take care.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.